Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Dumb SEO Questions, episode 222. Each week, we meet to answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+, on our Facebook group, Dumb SEO Questions, and also on Twitter, Dumb SEO QS. With us tonight, we have the oldest man in SEO, David Roseanne. David is in the south of England. Are you being hit by the storm surge, David?
We've had a lot of rain over the past 24 hours or so. We're all covered in about ½ inch of water, as you can see.
Okay. You can find David on writingforseo.org. Edwin Jonk is CEO of IdesToast in the Netherlands. You can find Edwin at idesthost.nl. Masataki Wasa is webmaster of wasaweb.net. He's also a Google top contributor on the AdSense community. Masataki can be found at wasaweb.net. Micah Fisher-Kirshner can't be found, but he's the senior SEO manager for Zendesk.
From everywhere.
Pardon?
I said we've been looking for him everywhere.
Micah is a regular on the SEO public speaking circuit. He's based in the USA. David and Masataki based in the UK. Edwin is based in the Netherlands. And Tim Capper, God knows where. Tim Capper is CEO of onlineownership.com. He lives somewhere near Corby, about 25 miles north of London. Or is it 100 miles? I'm not sure.
125.
Is it really that far?
We like to keep it a long way away from the south.
You can find Tim at onlineownership.com. He's also a Google top contributor on the Google My Business community. William Rock is an SEO based in the United States. He can be found at williamrock.com, and he's also a Google top contributor on the web search, and one other, but I just can't remember. One other, isn't it, William? Okay. All right, so let's have a look at our first question tonight. Just have to click the right button. It's a question from Edisham Shaikh. Edisham has asked a number of questions of us. Talking about a sudden increase in crawl rate. Edisham said, "Hi all, I want to know what could be the reason for a sudden increase in crawl rate." He gives us an attachment which can be seen on the SEO Questions community on Google+. He said thanks in advance.
To be honest, I like Dave Elliott's answers. Particularly D was a good one. Without kind of specific details to potentially anything that you've done on your site, it can be difficult to narrow down what's gone on unless there's been an actual algorithm update, and sometimes even then it's not enough. So size of site can sometimes affect that as well. So going to Dave Elliott's C, your site could be creating lots of new pages, or in the same vein, it doesn't even have to be creation of new pages, but you've put in a new XML sitemap and it's found new pages, or you've created duplicate content by mistake. You could have changed things in Google Search Console to get Google to crawl more than it has by mistake. Yeah, there's honestly a lot of potential reasons for changes. And most of the time, it's not something that at a smaller scale is going to be a big impact to your site. But if you're suddenly seeing a spike and you've done nothing directly, then I would be more inclined to check to see if you've accidentally created duplicate pages, the parameters, you've opened something up that was blocked from the search engines before, you've suddenly gotten a lot of 404 pages. Those are potential certain situations that might have occurred. Sometimes it's even just one of your older posts got picked up and shared heavily in some way, and so Google's crawling through kind of a interest of, okay, why is this article now being crawled? This is where, while Google's Search Console is kind of nice at the start to show you some of the numbers, it's where diving into your crawl logs actually becomes very useful, so you can see what pages have suddenly gotten that spike, and it'll give you far more helpful data going from the high level down into the actual nitty-gritty details to see what actually is being crawled a lot more.
I don't think anybody will want to add anything to that. And I think that was a good guess. Also, I'd like to point out Timmy Ora-Malloy and Dave Elliott, two of our forum heroes this week, answering questions on the SEO Questions community on Google+. We thank them very much. All right, let's move on to the next. This one from Priya Gupta. Which is the best SEO paid tool? SEMrush, of course. Priya said, can anyone suggest one best SEO tool? In that tool, we can get to know everything from keyword ranking to on-page analysis, backlinks, content, etc. Marty Eigner and Dave Elliott. One said SEO Power Suite. The other said Moz. Dave Elliott said the panel will say SEMrush, which is good as well. I think Moz's ranking and backlinks info is better though. That said, I never use Moz and use SEMrush occasionally. What he's referring to is that SEMrush are kind enough to advance a copy of the SEMrush suite of tools to the Guru version of those tools to the members of our panel. For that, we're very grateful. Can I get a comment?
Yeah, I'm gonna even with their, or regardless, I should say, of their sponsorship in some of the ways, I still recommend SEMrush nonetheless. For the price and for the features that you get, it's really hard to beat. Even many of the enterprise level type tools, higher level, higher expensive tools, SEMrush provides a lot of features that it's worth the price out of any of the other tools that I would, for the comprehensive set of what you're looking for. It's pretty much one of the ones I'd recommend paying for.
Plus, they sent me a hamper for Christmas.
Would you stuff? Well, I would expect something like that would go to Tim, but hey.
I just want it noted that mine arrived before Tim's.
Oh, so it was preparation for you to get into that. Okay, got it. I see.
I was away, mate. I was away. I didn't pick mine until I got back from South Africa.
Well, not only did I get a hamper, but I got a Christmas dinner out of them as well. So there you go. I'm well and truly biased in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah. So we kind of would probably all say SEMrush, but yeah, there's a lot of them out there. What's the best? Ooh.
SEMrush.
Yeah, but I've already said we are biased, but to give a, yeah, you know, there's a lot of good ones out there. Yeah, there's a lot out there. I guess you're just gonna, you know, they all have 30, like some have 14 to 30-day trials. Sign up for a handful of them. Use the same site on all, like all 3 or 4, and you've got 14 odd days. Check out which one is providing you the best information for your needs in the way that you find helpful, and then make a decision based off that. The rest obviously you don't need, so you just don't carry on the trial, and then you sign up to the other one. There we go. Made the decision.
Any other comment? All right, let's move on to the next. This one from Patty Mantaloons. I thought his other name, Matty Pantaloons, I thought that was a fake name. But now we have Patty Mantaloons. Anyway, Patty said, server response times, : lots of peaks in the half-second range, or 500 milliseconds, to above 1 second in the last few months. Are these normal fluctuations or not normal? I've just got to point out Alan Blue Ice, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, also answered through the week. We are so grateful to the people that take the time to help us answer these questions. While we're thinking about it, I'll read out Alan's answer. He said, yes, normal, generally speaking. However, when it approaches 2 seconds, that's a threshold for Google. Official policy: if pages take longer than 2 seconds to download, just the code on the page, not the supporting files, which might be linked in the code on the page, Googlebot is more likely to abandon the crawl. It could cause a lost opportunity, failure for Google to find new or refreshed content, and a slow server response time is a red flag first warning of other speed problems.
Yeah, Alan's hit it fairly well. Questions I would check for this is what tools are you essentially using? Because if you do feel that the fluctuation is irregular outside of what normally has occurred for you in the past versus what generally is normal, you may want to check some stuff and run either get a few services that do pings on your own server. I think Pingdom, Alert Site, or some of those can help to more or less uptime monitor. Probably one of the potentially cheaper ways for free just some quick ones, is based on the actual traffic that goes to your site. So inside of Google Analytics, they have a page speed section, and you can take a look to see where kind of on average, what are people seeing for the server response time? And then you can break it down by certain demographics, more or less. You can break it down by and see if there's specific issues that you have for certain locations, as one example. But as Alan said, like those types of half a sec to a second is a pretty normal fluctuation. But if that's not been the case in the past, then that's something you may want to just check for in case things do eventually get worse.
Thank you, Micah. Well, I think that covers it. Let us move on to the next. This one from Chase Rayner, who asks a question titled Social Shares of a Particular Page. And he said, thoughts on this claim? It's not too long, it goes beneath the fold. He said, one of the biggest changes in SEO for 2017 will be more weight given to the number of social shares of a particular page or post. With Google's stated goal being to provide the most relevant results for a particular search term, how many times a specific page or post is shared, liked, +1, tweeted, etc. on social media has a direct correlation to quality content. Google has been collecting social information from its Data Hub partners for years. And as they get better as evaluating the massive amount of information pushed through all social media channels, you will see better ranking specificity, goodness me, from a large quantity of social shares. In the past, if someone linked to your page that showed Google that you were an authoritative source, although backlinks will continue to be a cornerstone of SEO, I anticipate the social data to be the backlink of the future. It sounds like Mark Trepagan.
Isn't this one of these things that comes up every year as a prediction since the year dot? That social sharing or social thumbs upping will have a positive effect in the coming 12 months. I think once a year someone rolls it out in the hope that this year it will happen. It's a bit like Linux going to take over the desktop in whatever year you like. I don't think there's any real evidence that this is the case, that Google is taking these as, how's it put, a direct correlation to quality content. No, not convinced.
We would be overrun by cats if that were the case. I think where it might come into play is personalized search. If you could, tie up your social accounts with search, then that would make sense. However, in organic search, as it were, without any personalization and such effects, I think that'd be pretty difficult to do because you're not really comparing the same thing. Not everyone uses social media platforms. Not everyone uses the social media platforms in the same way. The data you get is probably going to be lopsided. So I think it's very difficult for Google to use that data effectively for non-personalized organic search results.
Yep. There's also things like, I mean, some pages will never be shared. You know, I mean, like if Tim Capper completed an online survey just to see whether he needed Viagra or not, he's not likely to share that, is he? It's just going to that one will just go through to the keeper. You're right, Ressa. Yeah, okay, mate. All right.
That was unexpected.
You weren't ready for that?
No.
Well, there's a lot of issue, right? First of all, he's talking about correlation. So that is an estimate, or it doesn't mean that he says that Google will use the social data. He only says that there's correlation. There has to be quality content. He also suggests that a social share makes it more authoritative, which I really disagree. There are so many spammers on Twitter. That's not going to help. And he says that social data like a share or like is similar to a backlink. That's really not the case. There's a lot of issue with this kinds of claims.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of noisy data.
Yeah, and Google doesn't have the data to filter it out, right?
Yeah, and even if they could, and that was my sort of supposition, that even if they could, they would only use it really to personalize the search results.
But Facebook isn't going to give them a lot of data.
Yeah. Then it would make sense to me, because if you say, "Oh, I want to," perhaps you type in film, movies, or something like that, and then it might be a set of recommendations from people you know. That would make sense, provided there's enough data. But as it is, I can't see it happening.
No, me neither. And Google has a lot of data for personalized search, right? Especially when people use Google Now or Google Maps. They have a lot of GPS data. So
exactly. I mean, so Google does have a lot of data. They probably can recognize behavior, people's movements. If you work and if you allow your smartphone to be, if it's GPS enabled, then they would know your routine. That's why they can suggest all sorts of things on Google Maps about whether it's been busy or not, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of data that Google has without relying on social media platforms. And it'd be interesting to see if social media platforms then would try to become that kind of recommendations / search engine for their users. So instead of having to search on Google, people might now search for information that they perhaps wish to find out on different social media platforms. I think that would be the interesting way of seeing it, rather than thinking in terms of social shares equaling some sort of influence on organic search results. I think that way of thinking, I think, would lead you to a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, totally agree. All right. Anybody else on this one before we move on? Okay, we'll call that the go ahead. This one, if it ever opens. Oh. Da, 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 da. Good heavens. Another one from Patty Mantaloons. It's titled Removal Requests in Google Search Console for a 404 error. Patty said, this has been driving me nuts for weeks. I've made repeated removal requests in Search Console for 404 error pages that Google somehow sees as coming from pages long since gone, including a Yoast WordPress SEO XML sitemap. I even removed the Yoast plugin months ago. I've been repeatedly requesting the removal of all of these pages for months now, but they keep popping up as sources for my 404s. I've run Screaming Frog, a deep crawl, combed through the site and Google's indexes, and not seeing a trace of these pages anywhere but from inside the Search Console.
Yeah, Google has a long memory. I can see 404s that are fixed and are still being reported. Within Google Search Console, you can mark them as fixed. That doesn't mean they are fixed, but if you know they are fixed, you can mark them as fixed. That way, the Google Search Console will set other 404s or other issues higher.
Yeah, but then they'll crawl again after X months, and then they'll record it as a 404 error, doesn't it?
Well, if it is
Even if
fixed, or if it is fixed, or you want to have a 404, right? 404s can be, they are quite normal on the web. So
Yeah.
if Google finds something that's a 404 because someone on the internet linked to a page that doesn't exist on your server, then that's quite normal, and you don't need to fix that, but you can mark it as fixed within the Google Search Console, and that way other 404s or other things will appear higher.
Yeah, so marking it as fixed is sort of hiding it, isn't it, rather than sort of really fixing it as such.
Yeah, but it's easier to manage, basically. That's what it is. Because otherwise you see all the things you already done, and you have to go to the next page or the next. And they're all fixed, right? So then those other 404s will appear higher.
All right, I think we've covered this. All agree? I'm not sure if I tweeted that. I'll try it. I did. I hope this one comes up a little bit more quickly than the other. Here's one from Chase Rayner. What's business to business SEO?
Well, I threw in a little joke because I work in a B2B company, so I do SEO for them, and hence B2B SEO. Yeah, there's really no differences, as Ellen notes later as well. There are ideas and things that might differ tactically based on your own business, but generally, the SEO you do is going to be fairly similar regardless of what kind of industry you're in. The tactics and ideas and metrics might differ, but a lot of the fundamentals are going to be essentially the same. So I honestly don't really see a difference in that regard.
Yep, I agree with that. Who else has a comment? Well, Micah was one of our forum heroes, along with Alan Blyweiss, Paddy Mantelins, and that's all. And we are so grateful for the work they do, answering these questions through the week. Let's go to the next. Neil Cheeseman has a question. Effort to optimize a potential ranking page. Neil said, suggestions, please. A WordPress website, a category page, which is a page or two that has a list of posts from a category, has been indexed. These are usually set to no index. In an effort to optimize a potential ranking page URL, a new page has been created with links to the category posts and additional relevant content added to the new page. The question is, what is the best way to get the first category page to be out of the index? In the first instance, 301, old to new. 2, should the category page be no indexed? 3, should the category page be requested to be hidden from the index via Google Webmaster Tools or Google Search Console? But can that be done after adding no index to this? Can that be done after adding no index to the said category? Advice gratefully received.
I mean, I think having one set of category pages is fine. I think that's probably helpful for a larger post. In some ways, I would say think of a category page a bit like a sitemap. They're useful for funneling kind of some link value over. And depending on certain queries, could be useful for people coming in through search. But I usually try to make sure that those category pages make sense to what the searcher's intent is. So I like to have them be more granular and specific than just a single word phrase or two as a category page name. I think it's perfectly good to have it for a blog post, but not both. So by that, I mean, don't have both category and tag pages indexed. Just make sure it's just one. And if you're trying to get it out of an index, and the new one is it has some similarities to the old, then having that kind of redirect over with a lot of similarity is fine. So 1 is fine. Yeah, if it's duplicated, then 2, if no indexing it, is fine. If you just want to throw it out of the index, you'll need it to eventually make sure Google stops crawling it. So you may want to robust.txt at first, tell Google to temporarily remove it, then put the no index on. That's usually kind of where I would stop. With 3, let's Search Console. So yeah, I think it's going to depend on kind of the situation that you're looking for with this, but I don't generally see having a problem with keeping the category page there. Yeah, I know there was a large conversation about that between Roboto and Alan. I'm usually on the side of a few number of category pages is fine, not too many. Don't use them as tag pages, and they can be nicely of value to you.
Yeah,
Or
I
like
would
the
also.
top level, right? Or like the top level, where you're basically looking at the high level of what your theme is, and then you can kind of go sub theme. Yeah.
Well,
I also don't see.
Go ahead, Edward.
I don't see a problem in having the category pages in the index. However, as I have seen instances where the same post of a WordPress post is added to multiple categories, right? And if you add them to like 5 different categories, it does look like you're duplicating the same content on different category pages. So I wouldn't do that. But otherwise, I think it's fine to have them indexed.
Yeah, and I see Alan Blue Eyes also said the same in his huge answer on our Facebook community on Facebook, oddly enough. All right, let's try and tweak this. It worked, and we'll go on to the next. Oh. I'm going to kill this site this week, and we'll put it up on a new server. Chase Rayner asks the question, JavaScript and CSS in above the fold content. Asking for a friend. He said, a friend just asked me this. I can't figure out how to fix this on Google Page Test. Eliminate render blocking JavaScript and CSS in above the fold content. If you could point me to somewhere to learn how to fix this, that would be cool. Neil Cheeseman, Kyle Hawke, and a number of others answered this question. What is your answer for Chase?
I think a lot of I think it has to do with your shopping cart, your website. There's a lot of different variations in how to fix that sometimes, if you can fix it.
Yeah, and another question is, how much are these things slowing down your site? I mean, in most cases, I think it does make sense to have an external CSS file, because that would be easier to manage your pages, rather than having to add CSS to each individual file, let's say, and then having to change all of that because you want to change something tiny. Then I don't think it really makes sense. I mean, of course, if you have a huge CSS file or you have 50 files, then that might be an issue. But if you have a single or few CSS files, and they're of reasonable size, then I cannot really see how you'd be too hindered by those. And I think later in the same thread, in the discussion turned on issue of images. If you have that's going to slow down your site than having an external CSS file. I think the example was that there's 3 megabits of picture, an image file. That's going to slow down your site more than having 15K CSS file, an external CSS file. So I think it's really a matter of interpreting the data and saying, okay, is it really slowing down my site to the extent that is noticeable for users or not? And if it's not, then I probably wouldn't worry too much about those 2 points.
Yeah.
Well, the question is also about render blocking. So if you download the web page, and that particular JavaScript has to be rendered before everything else, then and it's called render blocking. So that particular JavaScript has to be executed before other things can happen. And that can be quite a problem. A couple of months back, I saw a website that had 2 Google Maps plugins from WordPress. And those 2 plugins, they were holding each other, especially the JavaScript that the plugin added were basically blocking the rendering. And that took quite some time to figure that out. And in the conversation, Bepado also makes a great point about plugins. Don't overuse them. They slow your site down, really.
Yep, exactly. All right, let's call this one answered. Move on to the next. Question from Chad Kazuski on Parallax websites when doing SEO. Chad wants to know your opinions. Micah Fisher-Kirchner through the week said, I would avoid parallax on important images. Otherwise, no large issue in my humble opinion.
There you go.
Yep, I think that covers it. You're right. All right, let me tweet that. And let's go to the next. Paddy Mantelins asks a question regarding not provided Google Analytics keyword data. Paddy said, where does the small percentage of not provided Google Analytics keyword data come from if Googlebot now encrypts, or if Google, I should say, now encrypts all searches?
Yeah, so as I noted, that's coming from other search engines for the most part, and you can check that by putting in a second dimension inside of Google Analytics to see the source. So you'll get the keywords and source listed together. Yeah, I think it's, yeah, source. And so it will show you that could be, for example, Bing, Yahoo, Baidu, Yandex. It could be some other search engines, and that will give you kind of an idea to see if that's what are the terms people are using on potentially other search engines that still provide keyword data.
Yeah. Okay. Does anyone want to add to Micah's answer?
And Bing is quite nice, right? If your site is on SSL, they will provide the keywords, right?
Yeah. As long, yeah, because Bing's following the proper SSL protocol. Google's the one that's breaking it by creating an exception around that. So otherwise, yeah, as long as your site's SSL, then you'll get the same keyword data as you normally would have without it.
All right. Let's move on to the next. Oh, it's that time again. Well, look, I see people are still watching us, and we thank you for that. Your interest in what we do makes what we do worthwhile. We'll be back at the same time next week to do this all again. But for now, it's good night.